indeed. Sheila, thank you so very much for making all the food tonight, and Tim as well for opening up your These are like the best catered events, so we'll be coming back time and again.
Every 3 months.
And I'm thrilled to come back, first and foremost to say thank you, because as you all may remember, we had a coffee. Tim and Sheila were kind enough to open your home just months and months ago. It was one of the first coffees we had in Scituate, where I got to come out and officially be a candidate and tell you who I was and why I was running for office. And happy to say we can have cautious optimism that what you all educated me on back now almost a year ago when we talked about getting the Rosas Lane, getting the project finished, that at least after the meeting last week, that we're hearing that we're meeting deadlines, and we keep holding everyone's feet to the fire to make sure that the work is done, and that we'll finally have the project after, how many years? Over 20 years?
45.
That's a problem starting. Ross, long before you were born, and I guess 2 years ago.
Yeah.
1965.
Was it really?
Whatever it was, yeah.
All right.
I was born in '65.
I was born in '66. I wanted to come out and talk. One is to say thank you. This has been the greatest job and the greatest honor I've had in my life, to be able every day to be able to help people, try to take votes that we know in very difficult times. There are a lot of challenges that each of us are going to be facing. And here to say tonight that we've had a number of successes in 6 months that make me very proud, that I want to be able to share with you. And as we know, no surprise with the global economic meltdown that we've had, that the state is going to be doing less. And many people, over the 6 months since I came in, people were saying we need someone to go up there and maybe get a fresh perspective on what kind of reforms can be done, what kind of ways we can do to make sure that we're giving services to our towns that we all care deeply about, that we're doing things that protect people who worked very long and hard, who deserve to have a comfortable retirement, but just showing where we're marshaling resources. So a few things I want to mention. Right from the get-go, when I was sworn in and I was elected to be the president of our class. The class of freshmen who are a wonderful group of people. And by the way, we have 53 new representatives who have been elected in the last 3 years, who are folks who respond just as you do. Every day you read in the paper, seeing something that's happening that clearly needs to be addressed as a reform. We've got a great group of folks who are acting every day in the public's best interest. We've done, just in the last few months, we did pension reform, which, how many of you were reading about any of those issues in the paper? I have to stress, 85% of the people who work for the state government, we're talking about the AG's office, right? People who work in state government work incredibly hard. They don't get paid a tremendous salary. They do it because they love public service. They do it for the hope at the end of having a decent pension. But the average pension for someone who works in state government and retiring right now, the average pension is $24,000 a year. The average pension for someone who's been a person working in Scituate, working for town government, their average pension is $18,000 a year. So on the pension reform, the first three things we talked about, it wasn't those folks that we were always so upset about trying to make reforms. It was people who frankly abused the system. And it was people who you read about, folks who would work 1 day of service. The former speaker, DeMacy, worked less than 3 weeks there, was trying to get a year of service. That's wrong. We've eliminated that. People who wanted to enhance their pension by getting credit for volunteer service. There was a gentleman who wanted 18 more years of service for being a volunteer as a library trustee. That was eliminated. People who were trying to get pension boosts by including transportation allowances or housing allowances. All of those things have been eliminated so that the real egregious examples are no more. And I want to make sure that as people talk about that, you'll hear say they're all a bunch of crooks, this and that. You can be saying, look, you've heard firsthand from me that we've had that kind of reform, and we're spending money effectively. The other is transportation reform. I know we were talking about different issues before. And transportation reform, for all of us here in the South Shore, for the most part, we rely on our regular driver, our regular cars. But for Greenbush, for others, the T right now is a $130 million deficit every single year. And in order for us to be able to make sure as a commonwealth that we provide for people who need to be able to get in and out of Boston for work, we need to make sure that that's going to be done in a manner that's spending money wisely and effectively. What we just passed not that long ago, to get rid of duplicative services. We have 5 different agencies that are all doing transportation, serving one capacity or another. We've created one super mega transportation agency that John Bowes here works for, that's going to oversee. The Turnpike has been melded into it. For the MBTA, MBTA now is going to have a different oversight, a different board to try to hope that we can squeeze the best savings out of those important services possible. We did things like making sure on that side that people who have worked for the T used to be able to retire at age 45. And that, at one point in time when we were living for younger years, all of us now are going to live to be 100, right?
With any luck.
That's it. So we're trying to make sure that folks, now in a way of making sure things are sustainable, people can't retire till age 55. So a combination of merging duplicative services, making sure that we're going to look at ways of doing the kind of things that John Bowes here does, which is information technology to do savings, but also to make sure that we're going to save on retirement issues there have been saved. The final thing I want to talk about is ethics reform. That clearly, being, I am now seeing, have now been there 6 months, every single time I do a citation or do a presentation, which can be like twice a week, whenever I read off that it's signed by the Speaker of the House, people start to giggle. Bob DeLeo is a wonderful person. I'm very proud to be working with him. But people, after hearing 3 successive Speakers of the House being indicted, people start to say, what's going on up there? Are you people following what is clearly a public trust? And we all should be extremely angry when someone violates public trust. When I saw you guys, I remember it was the whole thing of Senator Wilkerson, pictures of her stuffing money in her bra. You know, for weeks I was knocking doors, and finally I had to have a joke answer, because people would say, are we going to see pictures of you stuffing money in a bra? And I have to say, luckily I don't own a bra. No, you'd never see me doing it. But we've done some great reforms. That now, since we were just talking about the grand jury system with the Attorney General, giving the Attorney General some real tools to make sure that for any public corruption cases, that she can now be able to get enforcement powers, along with the Secretary of State now having subpoena powers that he didn't have before, making sure that the bright line rule for lobbyists, we just don't take, the whole argument of what kind of gifts you take from lobbyists. It's very simple, you just don't. And I think when people are hearing that in this tremendous economic crisis that we have, all of those items needed to be done and done quickly, so we could then show that we were serious about the work for all the folks here in the Commonwealth. So, I mostly like to come out just to get questions from folks, and at that point I wanted to hear tonight, what's on your mind, what issues you want to see me tackling just in the next year and a half until we have our, when would the next, maybe it'll be 1 year from now, we can do our next kind of coffee to come back and report.
Christmas is a good time for a party.